Guam is not only where America's day begins, but for close to 2,500 Kurdish refugees, it's a gateway to the United States. As part of a humanitarian effort, Andersen Air Force Base will be a safe haven for more than 1,300 Kurdish men and women, at least 120 infants, and more than 600 children.
These are individuals that are Foreign Service nationals who are U.S. government employees and their families, who in many cases have worked for the U.S. government in a variety of capacities on the ground in northern Iraq for up to 5 years.
And for those 5 years of service and the Kurds' loyalty, Major General John Gallagher says the U.S. is helping them out.
They are the individuals that when I was literally on the ground in northern Iraq, I trusted my life to, and in return for that, as our sense of duty, we are now taking care of them because their lives would be in jeopardy if they remained in northern Iraq.
The Kurds will arrive on this runway and process here. They will be taken through 5 different stages. First, they will have their picture taken for their identification cards, like this one for every man, woman, and child. Their next step will be to fill out their necessary paperwork to undergo the immigration and naturalization process. After that, they will proceed to the next table where they will get their housing assignments. Next, they will process more information for their identification cards.
Right here, I'm working with people that are in processing. They're making here a database and ID cards for the people that are actually coming here tonight.
Their final step is to go through the USDA. In the meantime, a temporary nursery has been constructed for the Kurdish children waiting during the whole process. After the Kurdish refugees arrive, receive their IDs, begin the immigration and naturalization process, they will be taken here to Andy South, where they will live for the next 2 to 3 months. As Colonel Deloney puts it, Andy South will be transformed into a base within a base. What you're looking at now is the central feeding station. All of the Kurds' basic needs will be provided by the military.
The ultimate goal being to transition them because of their proven leadership ability in northern Iraq and having worked with many of these individuals. We would like to transition them very, very quickly into letting them obviously run their family needs and get back into a normal routine as new neighbors in the community here, and then help them transition very quickly into running basically the community by themselves.
The rest of the Kurdish refugees are expected to arrive by the end of the week. At Andersen Air Force Base, Sabrina Salas, Cable News. The coming of the Kurds. At approximately 10:20, the first of the U.S. sympathizers seeking refuge from the wrath of Saddam Hussein touched down on U.S. soil, taking the first steps on their long journey at Andersen Air Force Base. Greeted by Operation Pacific Haven Commander Major General John Gallagher, Rear Admiral David Brewer, Colonel John Deloney, Governor Carl Gutierrez, and Lieutenant Governor Madeline Bordallo, the refugees one by one got off the plane. And with a wave, walked on to the start of a brand new life.
They all look in pretty good shape. We had one lady who's 7 months pregnant, another individual who they said was not feeling well, and they were the first folks that we checked as they arrived here. They seem to be feeling fine. The medical folks went up and took a look at them. They're obviously very tired. You can see that in just saying hi to the kids and the families, that they're very, very pleased to be here. There's that look of enthusiasm on their face, but they've been up for a couple of days and they're tired, and I think they'd like to go home to their new community and go to bed.
The first round of refugees consisted of 462 adults and 292 children ranging from ages 3 to 12, plus 18 babies.
Just looking at them, most of them seem to be in pretty good shape and handling it quite well. As you can see, they're a very, very disciplined group. The family cohesion is very, very strong, and they're very upstanding citizens, so we're glad to have them here.
Addressed in Turkish, Arabic, and English, the families began the immigration and naturalization process, went through customs, received their identification cards, and their housing assignments. The Kurds were also treated to refreshments, and for the younger ones, a smile on their face said it all. Till the end of the week, a continuous flow of refugees will make their way to Guam, and it's here at Andersen Air Force Base they'll begin the process of seeking political asylum. At Andersen Air Force Base, Sabrina Salas, Cable News.
These refugees are former U.S. government employees from Iraq. They were airlifted from Turkey yesterday as part of a joint military operation called Pacific Haven.
These folks have been on the road for many, many days. Obviously a lot of emotional turmoil, physical turmoil, a 15 to 19-hour flight depending upon the aircraft that they were arriving on. Very, very fatigued, very, very upbeat, very well disciplined.
Behind these gates, hundreds of Kurds are seeking asylum.
The streets are obviously very calm, starting to see families out hand in hand.
The Kurds being evacuated were part of a U.S. intelligence gathering and aid operation set up in northern Iraq after the Gulf War. These people became prime targets for Saddam Hussein.
There's no doubt in my mind that if they had remained, that they would have been targets for the Iraqi whether it's intelligence or agents that are working throughout that part of the country, again because they had elected to work for the coalition, for the U.S. government, and are considered treasonous by the Iraqi government as a result of that.
But there are still hundreds of refugees fleeing to the United States. It's expected 2,500 will be evacuated by the end of this week.
Those individuals that were identified at risk as being U.S. government employees have by and large crossed out of Iraq into Turkey. That's when we declassified the operation. There could be some stragglers that we're unaware of, but the large bulk of them have cleared northern Iraq and are in Turkey or en route here as we speak.
In the meantime, a military buildup continues as U.S. troops head to Kuwait. At Andersen Air Force Base, Joy Lapola, Cable News.
There are now workshops in place that attempt to teach these Kurdish evacuees about America, Americans, and American culture. The longer the U.S. military works with the Kurds, the smaller the gap between American and Kurdish culture will be. But for now, that gap is still worlds apart. Every day, the Kurds learn how Americans value their privacy. Typically, Americans don't like being asked personal questions. Not so in Kurdish culture.
To us, that may be a little uncomfortable, but to them, they're just trying to find your social status. They may ask what your husband does, if he's married, if he's in the military, what rank he is, because again, they're trying to figure out your social status, and it's more like a personal calling card. So,
as personal as the Kurds' questions may seem, Vic says they are completely the opposite when it comes to personal contact. Unlike Americans who have no problems displaying affection in public, Vic says Kurdish couples never touch each other in public. Obviously, there are many differences between Kurdish culture and American culture. Vic says too many to mention at just one briefing. But there's one thing that's important to know, and that's personal space. Americans like to be about an arm's length away from the person they're talking to. The Kurds like to be about a foot away.
That may seem a little unnatural to you, and if you try to back away or move to the left or right, he's just going to go ahead and follow you, so it's going to look like a dance.
Vic says the Kurds are just as close when sitting, but when they sit, both feet are on the ground, something most Americans don't do. But up or down, together or apart, both Americans and Kurds will learn about each other in the years to come. All 2,000 Kurds on Guam are seeking political asylum. At Andersen Air Force Base, Will Tran, Cable News.
Operation Go. The individuals that are sitting here, many of them received 24 hours notification.
Meet the movers and shakers, the behind-the-scene players of Operation Pacific Haven.
From movement to monitoring, from administration to logistics.
Ray Bynum is a logistics supply officer. He assists with coordinating, feeding, transporting, as well as contracting military and non-military vendors to make sure the refugees' needs are met.
We're opening up a new shop at. Our group has been in charge of trying to get a feeding plan together for the refugees, whereby they will be responsible for cooking their own food, bringing in pots and pans, and that way they're not so dependent on us bringing in their food every day.
Several representatives from the federal and local government agencies and nonprofit organizations are also helping in this humanitarian effort. In charge of bringing all these agencies together, Navy Captain George Allison.
So we've got a major coordination effort we do to integrate all these agencies into our process of getting these refugees cared for and resettled in the U.S.
Organizations like the Salvation Army have contributed since day one, donating more than 500 baby bottles, 4,000 Pampers, and 800 toys.
And our mission has been more or less to try to help out with the items that aren't in the military stores, and maybe it'd take them a while to get them.
And then one of them started doing the Macarena. Now, it's not one of my favorites. I'm afraid it made it to the Kurdish village, you know. So they hadn't quite, you know, somebody had shown them, so they started doing the whole thing. And I'm a dancer, I love to dance, and
the Macarena.
The Macarena, so showing the little girl how to do the different moves. And they did it much better than they did at the Democratic National Convention. So.
At Anderson Air Force Base, Sabrina Salas, Cable News.
Over to Ava.
All 2,000 Kurds living on Guam are seeking political asylum, and chances are most of them will end up getting it. That's why the U.S. military is launching its English as a second language program.
Help them transition to life in the United States.
So far, 50 people have enrolled in the English classes, with more soon to follow. There's no doubt the classes are vital to the Kurds' assimilation, but it's also important to their mental well-being. When they're not being screened or medically examined, the Kurds often find themselves with a lot of free time. That's where the classes come in, but the classes are teaching more than just English. It's also teaching them money management.
Finances, checkbooks, credit cards, the whole money issue, which is different from where they came from.
Someday, the Kurdish evacuees will be able to leave this camp at Anderson Air Force Base and move freely in American society. That's when perhaps they'll see their biggest cultural difference.
Particularly the role of the American woman in our lifestyle. Many of the parents are likely to find that the teachers of their children are women, as opposed to men. Women play a much more central role in our lives, both in and out of the homes.
Despite the dominance of men in the Kurdish culture, some women are currently enrolled in the program, giving them a taste of what will happen in about 3 months. That's when they should be resettled to the U.S. mainland. Will Tran, Cable News.
Close to $500,000 is the estimate Air Force officials say the military and community have spent to support Kurdish evacuees so far. The total number of evacuees, 2,200. Pacific Haven Joint Task Force Commander Major General John Gallagher says trying to take care of the needs of evacuees has become a little easier with help from Kurds.
We didn't realize this at first, but they come from 4 distinct areas, 4 major city areas that they have been assisting the government in northern Iraq, and so they lived together, and they would like to live together that way while they're here. So what they're able to do is take the families by region and then put them together and allow them to establish again the same type community that they had when they were living in northern Iraq.
Gallagher says this also gets the evacuees involved in their own community government. The Major General says now that the last plane of Kurds has arrived, the next step is assimilation.
And then we'll go into the transition assimilation phase where the asylum process will go on, the seeking of sponsors will go on, and then gradually assimilating them into running their own community, as well as preparing them to move onward, hopefully, to sponsors in the United States.
The military-appointed mayor of the new Kurdish city, Lieutenant Colonel Elwood Johnson, says a Kurdish government is already in action.
We are dealing with 4 different groups. We are going to divide this area here into 4 different villages. So, because they elected their own leaders. So what's going to happen is their leaders are going to be my primary POCs, points of contacts, so I can be sure I meet their requirements. See, I'm not in a real good position to really decide what they really need. So I've asked people who are in those areas, and those are their formal leaders.
Johnson says he's happy with the community and government support and donations.
Also had individuals from Guam agencies, like for instance, who have donated quite a few items. We had one truckload yesterday, and we offloaded the truck and we distributed the materials, and the people who were here were very appreciative. Well, I can tell you one thing. If you have any soccer balls here, please send those. The folks here, the young men here really like to play soccer, so if you have any of those, if I have a request, send soccer. Send a soccer ball and make a friend for life.
Johnson says there are plans in the works to create soccer fields and put up playgrounds. Pacific Haven spiritual advisor Dr. Farouk Abawi says along with the hard work, being able to practice their religion will play a vital role in keeping evacuees' spirits strong.
To my knowledge and understanding, most of the Kurdish people are extremely religious, the majority of them are. And being refugees here on Guam, the thing that will really reinforce them and really give them like the strength to carry on is their ability to practice their religion.
Abawi says most Kurds were happy to see local Muslims greeting them as they came off the plane. From Anderson South, Jay Pasqua, Cable News.
The vast majority of Kurdish refugees that fled northern Iraq are Muslims. Out of the more than 2,100 airlifted by the United States government, less than 1% are Christian. Based on their Islamic belief, many of these Kurds were able to avoid political persecution.
I think the reason that they were persecuted is because they had some kind of alliance with the United States and they were working for the U.S. government. So anyone who works for the U.S. government is not going to be liked by Saddam's regimes.
But there are sacrifices along the way. The Kurds face challenges adjusting to life in Western society. More than 20 refugee women are pregnant. 3 have already given birth.
Of course, and the preference will always be that in Muslim countries, females go to the female doctor and males go to the male doctor. I mean, the preference is always there. But if that cannot be met, religion does not prevent them from going and seeking help from a male doctor in cases of emergency or childbirth.
There is no baptism since Muslims believe newborns are free of sin. Their judgment comes after death. It's an area within this refugee camp that the military has still not addressed.
We do not embalm the dead body. It's just washed and wrapped in cotton and buried preferably the same day. So these are some of the things that worries me, because for them it might be very traumatic to find that they're not able to do like the burial services the way they're used to.
The military is building a mosque. Traditionally it's meaningful but not necessary.
They can pray at their houses. They don't actually need a mosque, but the only reason that the mosque is required is for the Friday prayers, because the group needs to pray together.
But there are challenges with praying. In prayer, symbolically, Muslims face Mecca.
Some of them had their little compasses, and some of them were asking for help, which is the direction of Mecca, so that they can pray in that direction.
When you drive through this part of Andersen Air Force Base, you see Kurdish women outside tossing buckets of water, sweeping up. Cleanliness is considered half of the Muslim faith. Diet is just as important.
Muslims are not allowed to eat pork. Same thing like Jews. Pork is forbidden as a diet, and also alcohol for the Muslims.
The journey to political asylum may not be an easy one, especially from a religious standpoint. And that's just one of the reasons why the U.S. military has religious advisors like Abawi working with the refugees. As concerns surface, it's the advisor's job to bring them to the attention of military personnel.
That it just came by chance. I mean, I really don't.
The second Kurdish city will be right in the heart of Guam, but this fence will keep the Kurds securely isolated. The military says it's for the Kurds' peace and comfort.
Okay, basically we've taken and done very little to the existing perimeter fencing that's here on the compound. The only additional security measure that's been installed has been the main gate.
And they're putting up some additional fences.
Just behind these houses, the hill drops off sharply, and that's why the Navy Seabees built this 7-foot fence for safety for the Kurdish children. And it also acts as a buffer zone between the new Kurdish city and the surrounding community.
In addition to the fences, there will be 140 security personnel and a 24-hour roving patrol in and outside the fence.
Security is just a small portion of what, for instance, the Marines here at Tijan will be involved in, a very small part. More on the lines of police cops on the beat rather than security forces. Just as in any community, you have policemen who are there to ensure that the safety of the people in the community, and it's the same kind of a thing here.
But why all the security and isolation?
If you can imagine, they've been through quite a lot in the last few months. We're here to provide for their comfort. We're here to put them on the ground and give them a safe place where they feel safe, where they feel like we're watching out for their best interests.
Now, have you ever gotten any requests from them that they wanted to go out and mingle in the community, see the sights of Guam?
Well, in my experience with them, you can see that they are interested in the people in the surroundings of Guam, but they also understand the reason they're here, and the reason is they're seeking asylum for their eventual move on to the United States. They're very focused on that, and they're very interested in doing what they need to and getting on their way.
But until that time, the Joint Task Force will do all they can to make the Kurds feel at home. They are bringing in the supplies they'll need for the 5,000 guests, and like they did at Anderson South, they're building a mosque. This wooden structure may not look like much, but it has a special feature. Its front wall faces exactly 294 degrees, which points directly to Mecca. This entrance is for the women. The other side is for the men. There will be a wash basin at each entrance. As for the furniture, they won't need any. Muslims carry their own prayer rugs with them to kneel upon. As for their homes, Navy Seabees are busy repairing the wiring and plumbing. Tripling the size of Operation Pacific Haven requires a lot of manpower. To help in the tremendous task, 400 Marines have been transferred here from Okinawa. 280 flew in last night, and this evening 80 more should arrive. In Tijan, Sarah Cressup, Cable News.
As soon as she comes back out here, we'll walk around the corner, we'll go to the mosque, we'll go down and see what we can get with some